Hi, Poppy here. Today I want to take you far away from Possum Trot in your mind, and I want to take you back into history and tell you a true story. Once upon a time, back in the early 1800s, there was a sailing ship that left England to sail around the world, and also to not only sail around the world, but it had a mission in mind. They were supposed to do some trading across the South Seas. They went from England all the way around to the South Seas, over by places called like Tahiti and the Polynesian Islands. Anyway, it was a ship like this, an old sailing ship. It didn't have a motor on it anywhere. They just had to depend on the wind. And I'll give you a closer look at it here if I can. They had to depend on the wind. And see all the ropes and the rigging and everything? So they were sailing around. They had a captain who was a very mean man. And his name was Captain Bligh. Oh, he was awful to his crew. He treated them rudely and roughly. He used to swear at them. He used to beat them. He used to even put them in ropes and chains if they didn't obey him on the ship. He had some crew members that would agree with him, and if you agreed with him, you didn't have to be put in chains. But a lot of the good men on this ship got so fed up with Captain Bligh. He was just an awful captain. And so one day, the good men on the ship got together, and there was among them a man named Fletcher Christian. And they decided, and they did it. One night, they got one of the boats that was on the side. I don't know if you can see this or not. But on the side of the ship, there were little lifeboats. And so one night they decided, we're going to get rid of Captain Bligh. And the name of this ship was called the Bounty. So they hogtied Captain Bligh and all of his evil men. They put him in ropes and gagged them around their mouth. They put them on a boat and they shoved them away from the main ship, Bounty, and put them out into the ocean and just let them go in a little lifeboat. Well, everybody was so happy, but then they thought, well, now we've got the Bounty, we've got the ship. In fact, you can read about it. It's called Mutiny on the Bounty. And mutiny means to take something over. Roughly, you've got to take it over. And these good men had to roughly take over the Bounty. To shorten this up, they were sailing in the South Seas, and they found an island, big island out there called Tahiti. But then they saw another littler island out in the ocean farther, close to Tahiti, but it seemed like it was smaller, and there didn't seem to be many people on it or anything. And so they had Fletcher Christian, who now became the captain, who loved the Lord, and they went to an island called Pitcairn Island. And there were very few people on Pitcairn Island. Most of them were on Tahiti. But they decided, all the men on the ship decided, they liked Pitcairn Island. It was tropical and warm and beautiful. And there were a few other people on Pitcairn. And so they took everything off of the Bounty, and they started to, the days before there was building codes and everything, they started to build up a little village on Pitcairn Island. And it was a beautiful little village. And a lot of the men decided to get married, and they married some of these island women, and they had children on this island. But they said, we need a leader, we need a president, we need somebody that's going to give us rules and regulations, good ones, but we need some form of a government or something to rule us. And so they elected Fletcher Christian, because he seemed like a good, godly man. Well, one day, Fletcher Christian had gone back out to the boat, this boat here that's behind me. He went back out to that boat, and he found Captain Bly's sea chest. I'm going to put this up here. He found Captain Bly's sea chest. And he started looking for it, and he asked God, please, Heavenly Father, please give me some directions of how I can lead these people on our newfound island. And as he was going through Captain Bly's, the crummy old captain, he was digging down, and he found a lot of treasure maps. And he found probably about, I think it was 5 or 6 treasure maps where the ship could go and find buried treasure or hidden treasure. See, Captain Bly wasn't just working for the English Navy. He was almost like a pirate. He was such a mean old scoundrel, and he wanted to find treasure, and he had these maps. And Fletcher Christian noticed that on these maps there was X on some of them where the treasure was supposed to be, that pinpointed the treasure. And he thought, oh, wow, that's up here on the map, and then there's another map that shows where there might be treasure on this island over here, and there was all over. And then he kept digging down into the treasure chest, and in the very bottom of the treasure chest, he found Captain Bly's Bible, a Bible that Captain Bly never opened, never cracked it. But you know what he saw on the cover? And the cover was made out of leather, but on the cover there was an X, like the X that was on the treasure maps, where the treasure is. But then he turned this, and he saw an X, but he turned it upright to read it, and the X turned into the cross. And he thought, oh, this is a sign from God. I'm going to use the Bible to help to govern these people. And so he did. And that's where the real treasure was, because as he read the scriptures to the people, to not only his shipmates, but to the islanders, and now they were having kids, they were getting married, having kids. And so he made sure that his government on Pitcairn was ruled by God himself out of the Bible. And did you know, to this very day, Pitcairn is known to have one of the strongest Christian populations in the world. The percentage of people who love the Lord on Pitcairn Island, and it's all thanks to Fletcher Christian and the mutiny on the Bounty. So we traveled a long way from Possum Trot today, but I thought that's a neat story that you should know. We need God to govern us. Here in America, we need God to govern us. so we can have a peaceful, beautiful land. Do you think it'll ever happen? I don't know. We'll see. Okay, I just wanted to tell you that. I thought it was kind of a neat story. It's not just a story, it's history, and it's true. That's what makes it such a wonderful story. Okay, talk to you another time.